How can we actually integrate this so we can stay happy, healthy, and sharp?
That's a really good question. I'm actually a big fan of what I would call mental flexibility, in a sense that if you have a plan A workout that's an hour and it's really tough to get to the gym in that amount of time you have, maybe you don't even have a gym or stuff just gets really busy, how can we shrink that habit to a different variation of that same thing, but that requires less time?
Fitness coach, YouTuber, influencer. Today we're joined by the one and only Mario Tomic. Mario, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here, Mark.
Mario, it's my pleasure to have you here. I think we're going to be talking today about two topics that I think are very, very important to after-hours entrepreneurs. A, our personal fitness and our personal health, and B, how to actually evolve our business in a digital world. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of what you're doing now, which is very impressive, you have over 175,000 YouTube subscribers, which is a huge accomplishment. Congrats. But I want to back it up to the beginning, okay? How did you actually evolve your coaching business into a YouTube influencer style business? How did you make that transition, Mario?
Yeah, good question. So as a lot of trainers out there, you start doing stuff in person, you dabble a little bit online, but it wasn't really that serious back. That was 2014. We're talking 2012 even. So YouTube wasn't even a thing back then, as much as it is today. Of course, today, 8 out of 10 people know YouTube based on some of the recent statistics. So everybody's watching YouTube, whether you're 70 years old, 19 years old, you're on YouTube. You've been on YouTube at some point. Right. But back then, YouTube wasn't really in the game, and video wasn't that much in the game. But now, of course, most platforms are. So for me, it was really about recognizing the opportunity. If I can be one of the early adopters while everybody else was still kind of doing blog posts, chasing SEO, fighting Google to rank higher in the search, I just realized that at that point, that side of things is on a decline. So there was still opportunity, as it is with every specific medium of pushing content out there and reaching people, but I've noticed that it's getting harder and harder and harder to compete. And plus you're getting sort of like massive diminishing returns on if you're not like the top 5% on the search, you barely get any reach. And it wasn't really building that brand that I was really looking for. So my big philosophy in business was always, how can I build something that lasts for a very, very long time for the rest of my life? I'm not planning to retire. I'm in this business. I see it as a quote infinite game. So I'm just going to keep doing this for as long as I'm alive. And for me, that the cool thing about video was the ability to share my thoughts, put myself out there, and connect on a deeper level. So as a coach, I find now, and when me and my team, we work with a lot of entrepreneurs and clients from everywhere. We see that connection that people can recognize our core values through the videos that I put out. They can see my philosophy. They can see how I think about things. They can see how I present things. So there's that deeper connection compared to some of the other mediums out there. I mean, of course, podcasting is great for long form, things like that. But I like that video punchiness. It also forces me to condense my thoughts. It's very ruthless in its way how you have to be really good at managing attention. And you have to be, in a sense, almost essentialism mindset when it comes to presenting content, because you only present things that really, really matter. So it forces you to trim out the stuff that's non-essential, which I also like. That's sort of my life philosophy in general. I'm a minimalist / essentialist. So I think I kind of found something that I really enjoy. And for the business standpoint, starting in 2014, 2015 on YouTube was one of the best decisions I ever made. You probably wouldn't even be here today with you if I didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really remarkable the way that media and communication can just continue to evolve. And to your point, YouTube has evolved quite a bit over the past decade, right? I mean, right now, I think it's something like 8 out of 10 high schoolers want to be YouTubers when they grow up or something, right? So it's very attractive. But when we go back to when you just started out, I know when I started out on YouTube, Mario, I was a hot mess. It was not good. It was bad. It was very bad. And I think anytime you're starting something new, that's kind of how it starts out. When you look back to your evolution into YouTube, what were some mistakes that you made and you wish, man, I wish I would have gotten that right the first time around? What are some mistakes that you wish you could have corrected?
Yeah, there's plenty. I mean, a big focus of mine was I was so obsessed about gear and technology and trying to get into what's the perfect camera, lenses, carrying around like 3 tripods and different types of apertures, lighting, and all that nonsense. And it's important, but great content delivery and how you present stuff on camera is way more important. And then initially I kind of got sidetracked by that. The other thing, of course, when I first started, first and foremost, English is not my native language, so I had a really hard time conveying ideas. It was very sloppy. There was a lot of wasted seconds in a video, so I had to force myself to get better at presenting content, because I realized how much you actually keep someone on the platform is essential for your success on the platform. So you're kind of playing a game with YouTube. You're together on the same team. That's how I see it. So you're essentially partners in this whole game. So you're kind of always thinking, what does YouTube want? Not what I want, but what does YouTube want? And I realized in that sense, the better I get at creating content that actually keeps people on the platform, the better I'm going to do on the platform, because the platform is going to work for me. And there's a whole number of other mistakes, certain things like shifting, talking one day about fitness, which is my thing, and then the next day I would talk about something completely random that has nothing to do with fitness. And I just realized that I'm diluting my audience. I'm trying to get these people that are unrelated. They're not even interested in fitness. And I eventually, over time, I realized you kind of have to specialize in something. You have to be known for some things. Now, of course, fitness is a very broad niche. Even within that, there's countless things that you can specialize in. You can just talk about specific injuries like shoulders, and that's only your thing, or knees, that's just your thing you talk about. I focus more in what's my specialty, and that's working with fitness enthusiasts or sort of beginner intermediates that want to get really lean, get in amazing shape, and actually turn into a sustainable lifestyle. So I'm away from that bodybuilding type of world, which was one of the mistakes that I made initially. I was talking too scientifically, or in a sense, I was appealing to a too narrow of a niche of people that I didn't even actually work with. So I was using kind of coaches talk, maybe appealing to other coaches, but not to people that would actually work with me as clients. So I was getting the wrong people on my channel, essentially, because if you're looking from a business perspective, I want to put out a message, I want to help as many people as possible, but if I'm talking it in a way that it's too niche, I'm never going to get that general appeal that I'm looking for to be able to help these people, to be able to reach them. They don't understand my language.
So did you kind of come to this realization right off the bat, or was it through the process of continuously producing content? Because I feel like a lot of people, they get this perfection paralysis. I have to have everything perfect to start out. I can't get started on YouTube till I have the perfect camera with the perfect thumbnails and the perfect algorithm hashtags for my did you learn this over time? How long did it take you to really start refining your messaging?
Yeah, this is a long process. In the beginning, it's kind of like putting stuff out and seeing what's going to stick out there, and you just don't really know. And that's actually a good thing, because early viral success would have probably harmed me in a way, because it would have been just pure luck and I actually didn't know what I was doing. So I'm glad that it actually took longer, and it allowed me to really refine my message and refine what topics and niches I'm really the best at and what I can deliver to the audience. I did daily videos back in 2016 throughout the entire year. I started November 2015 all the way until December 2016, put a daily video out there. That really dialed in things in terms of my content presentation. My audience actually grew really fast because of that. I started around 3,000 subscribers when I was in November 2015, and that grew up to about 65-ish or so thousand back by the end of 2016. So that was that big leap. And then I realized, yes, there's quality, but you kind of need that quantity to get to the quality. It's almost like you have to take enough swings at it in order to get that home run, in order to get that piece of content that's going to then grow your audience. And then eventually you start realizing, what does that audience want? And then you're serving the audience and then spending some time experimenting with new things, but you're also already serving the people that you have on the platform. And honestly, it's been a crazy journey of testing, split testing. Even to this day, sometimes you put a video out there, it doesn't do that well, and you kind of wonder, why does it not do that well? You try changing titles and thumbnails to see if you can recover it. Mm-hmm. Then you try a different topic and angle next time. It does triple the views. You're essentially, you're looking at audience psychology a lot. You're seeing what really helps people out there, and at the same time, what eventually is that your goal is on the platform. So for me personally, I run a business on the side. We coach. That's our primary thing. So we're not necessarily YouTubers, because YouTubers are interested maybe in just really a lot of views or whatever they're using to monetize the audience, maybe some shirts, some ad revenue. For us, it's coaching. So we actually work with people directly. So there's a different approach you would take when you do that versus when someone would just look for millions and millions of views of random people and everybody else out there. I have a very specific niche. I know who my entrepreneurs and professionals are that I want to work with. So I want to make sure that I'm customizing as much as I can for them, particularly when it comes to the content.
Yeah. And one of the things that's really interesting to me is this evolution of the way that coaches operate. I mean, historically, especially pre-COVID, fitness coaching was done almost exclusively in person. I mean, obviously you were ahead of the game, but now that COVID hits and everyone's like, oh crap, I can't go to the gym and coach anymore. I have to coach from home. I think that there's this kind of mad dash to learning these new technologies like your YouTube, like your Clubhouse, Instagram, these various places. But YouTube still holds a kind of a special place for me because you can really keep someone's attention for a longer period of time. Right. On TikTok, for example, you can stand out for maybe 10 seconds, but on YouTube, you keep their attention for hours potentially.
Yeah, I like the longevity of the platform and I like the evergreen aspect of it in a sense that I know if I put out a piece of content, it goes to a library that if someone is watching this 5 years from now, they can go back and still relate to the ideas. And I try to really put out content that will survive through all these evolutions of fitness. And I really try to make content that even if someone a decade or 20 years from now watch, they can probably get something out of it. I don't have anything against a certain...
I'm sorry, do you mix in any like very targeted type of content in addition? So you have this kind of broad evergreen, but do you also have this very targeted specific content as well?
Yeah, when I uncover that there's a very particular issue that there's enough of an interest in, I'll attack that issue. So if I speak to a lot of clients and they say there's one particular thing that they're really dealing with, I look at the comment section, I see there's one thing that keeps repeating, then I might make a very, very specific video on just that. And when I say evergreen, even for that particular problem, it is the evergreen solution for that problem. So I don't personally create a lot of content that is trendy for a moment in time, and then it's done. A month from now, it's irrelevant. I try to create content that's relevant at any given moment in time. So people that kind of go dig through my library of videos back in 2017, 16, even 15, they're thinking, wow, I mean, I can still do this and I relate to this right now, which is huge. And that's kind of the stuff that I don't personally like with some of the newer formats like stories, reels, TikToks, and things of that nature. Is just the fact that the shelf life of content is very short, which I don't mind. I mean, those mediums are great and I can still see a tremendous amount of value there because you have that exposure and you can grab quick attention. If people like it, they can actually move on to the long form content. So you're giving people more choice and options, which is great. Nothing against that. But for me personally, when I look at my content consumption, I love going deep. I like to kind of go at least into a topic that is more than a minute. Like I try to train myself actually to have better attention span in the world where attention span is shortening quite a lot. So I see focus as a huge thing on YouTube. As a creator, I see managing focus and attention being one of the main things that I do in order to have that higher average view duration, which is based on YouTube analytics. You can see if your people are sticking around for 50% of the time, 60% of the time, or 20% of the time, which would be basically a disaster. It's very, very hard to have a channel that's successful if you can't keep people watching.
Yeah. Well, and some of these other platforms almost seem like ads to me, right? Because you can give someone a quick win on TikTok, right? Like, I don't know, increase your water intake to this amount per day, right? For example. And then they're like, okay, that's a quick win. Now I got to go see what Mario has to say on his YouTube channel because now I can go, like you said, I can go deeper. And I don't know if there's a better platform on the internet for going deep that's better than YouTube. YouTube is just, people will watch for hours. And you can watch a single video for 30, 40, 50, 2 hours, right? I would watch Rogan for 3-hour phases. You don't get that on any other platform, right? And I think that's something that coaches need to recognize and realize. So I want to kind of talk about this a little bit, right? Again, moving into the age of COVID, post-COVID, I think there's a lot of coaches that are scrambling to try to evolve their business. I'd love to hear from you. How do you evolve a historically physical business to a virtual digital business? What's the biggest challenge in doing that, Mario?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is really being able to rethink things and going against what you've been thought that is the correct way of doing it, which is really hard to have. That conflict, that cognitive dissonance is very difficult, because if something worked in the past, you're essentially fighting yourself, and you're also doing something completely new. So you could be an incredible coach locally, and we actually help. I mean, I work with a lot of coaches as well to help them level up the business, and they're incredible doing things locally. But then when it comes down to create content, that's a completely different domain. And the same skill set or your things that you learned as a coach don't necessarily apply here. You have to think like an entrepreneur. You have to think like a marketer in a sense. You have to think like a person that's a brand builder, which is a totally different skill set. I mean, just the fact that you know how to do a certain exercise and demonstrate correctly and do all those things doesn't guarantee that anybody cares, because unless you get attention, you don't really exist on YouTube or any other platform for that matter. I mean, you can go on Instagram, whatever. So for me, I think the biggest challenge when I first made that transition, it wasn't as difficult. The biggest challenge for me was just to go against and just give up on everything that was working, which I had locally, a few things that were working. I was like, well, let's scratch it and then start this whole new thing, which was good because I actually didn't have a big thing going on. But I can imagine if I had a whole gym full of clients and everything else, I would then have a harder time giving up on that and moving on and gyms being closed. Thinking about hybrid solutions, doing online nutrition, in-person training, or certain things that can work. But I'm seeing online as a layer that you want to add on, even if you are in person, like full-time, everything is working great, disregard whatever is happening, lockdowns and all that, you still will benefit from building a brand and having a presence online. There's still no reason for you to ignore the elephant in the room, because that's where the market is going. That's where it's all evolving. So as a coach, you kind of owe it to your clients. I mean, clients are getting value. They're going to watch my videos instead of watching your videos when they're at home. I mean, they're in the gym 4 hours out of this 168 hours a week. And for the other 164, they're going to watch my content instead of your content. I'm saying that in the nicest way possible. I love that. I mean, please do what you're doing because it's great. But at the end of the day, you want to have those touch points and be on top of mind. Because as fitness is not just what you do in the gym, it's what you do outside of the gym, especially if you have a nutrition process, if you have a lifestyle change process with sleep and stress management, all that other stuff. So yeah, I see a tremendous amount of value in just putting yourself out there. Now, does it have to be YouTube? YouTube is amazing, but it can be any other platform. I like YouTube. I think the barrier of entry is pretty high at this point in time if you want to really crush it, but that doesn't mean that you can't just start, because you should start. You don't want to go from day one, I'm going to make a viral video. Start putting out stuff, because you're not good at actually keeping people's attention right now, and that's okay. Nobody is when you start. So you simply have to put yourself out there as a coach and allow your ideas to be criticized, allow your ideas to evolve. It forces you to think through things multiple times in order for them to mature to a level where they can reach a demographic and an audience that you can help, not necessarily even from your area. Like, who knows? Maybe your channel blows up suddenly and now you have an entire second business that you can build that was no longer dependent on the local stuff. Now you can just go online and you're basically diversifying in a sense, right? You're not dependent on a local situation, which I mean, it's fine, but I would rather have my options if I had to pick.
Yeah, and even if you don't become a full-time YouTuber, even if YouTube doesn't become your big cash cow, so to speak, the skills you're learning in communicating via video, keeping people's attention via video, priceless. It's not going anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. So get started, start practicing now, because if you can hold someone's attention for 10 minutes on YouTube, there's no doubt in my mind you can be immensely, immensely successful here, like Mario at Tomic.com as well, if you want to learn more about what Mario's doing. Mario, I want to talk a little bit about fitness as well. We got a fitness expert on the show, and fitness is something that I think about a lot. As an after-hours entrepreneur, I've got my main job, I got my kids, I got my wife, I've got a lot of stuff going on. I've got my after-hours entrepreneurship. There's definitely days where I feel like I just don't have the time to put that exercise in. Do you think that's a dangerous mentality to be in? Or do you think that exercise works in a phase of seasons? Okay, I'm going hard on my job here. I'm going hard on exercise now. How can we actually integrate this so we can stay happy, healthy, and sharp?
That's a really good question. You actually tackle an idea of what's getting in the way of consistency, and actually one of the most common things that gets in the way of consistency, which is black and white thinking or dichotomous thinking, where in a sense, if I can't get the full workout in, I may as well just scratch it and do this whole thing the next day or some other day, which is quite dangerous when you're looking at it from a perspective of building and breaking habits, because habits respond to frequency. So if you're not frequently building that habit in there, you're going to have a hard time maintaining the habit. So I'm actually a big fan of what I would call mental flexibility, in a sense that if you have a plan A workout that's an hour and it's really tough to get to the gym in that amount of time you have, maybe you don't even have a gym or stuff just gets really busy, how can we shrink that habit to a different variation of that same thing, but that requires less time, if time is the limit factor? How can we do a 15-minute workout? How can we make a 10-minute session? How can we do 3 sets of push-ups right now to just simply maintain the habit? You're not always doing it for the result. You're doing it for the habit as well. And I think people don't understand this intuitively. They're always kind of result-driven, as I am, as well as an entrepreneur. I mean, love KPIs, measurements, metrics, data. I'm an ex-software engineer. And my entire life is in spreadsheets. I get it, right? I totally understand all the OKRs and everything. But at some point, you're just doing it to maintain the habit. And I love the ability, when I do that meditation session for a minute, just because I don't have the 15 minutes that I would normally do, I just love the fact how it allows me to still see myself as someone who meditates regularly. It's not a matter of whether I'm going to get this enlightenment from a minute of meditation. I'm not, but I'm building that muscle, and then I'm maintaining that meditation muscle through that 1 minute, and I'm doing just the best I can. And just the fact that you did the best you can leads to greater confidence. It allows you to kind of start rethinking some of the other things in your life. Am I being dichotomous in some other things, right? If I can't do this whole weekend with my kids and do all these things and all these plans and take my kids to Disneyland and do those trips and all that, can I do an afternoon walk with my kids? Can I do something that is going to make a big difference, but that is not this whole overhaul? Because we're always in the overhaul mindset. Everybody who's struggling, they think, oh, I'm going to overhaul everything immediately. Think about it from different grades. You can start 100% sure, but when it's not possible to do the 100%, how can you minimize that habit? And that mental flexibility goes a very long way, because you're fighting that tendency of the fresh start bias. I'm going to start on Monday, and I'm going to screw up this weekend. So one cookie leads to a whole bag, and the bag leads to a whole day. The day leads to the whole weekend, and then fresh start on Monday. So those are some of the things that essentially go in the way of success. And so you are really looking at how can I be as mentally flexible as possible. So in your case, contingencies. If this, then that. And as an engineer, again, think algorithmically. If this happens, then I'm going to do this. If that happens, I'm going to do that, right? So it's always a solution for a particular situation. And instead of being in that victim mode, okay, I can't do anything, and just crash the whole thing.
Well, I like that it doesn't have to be your full 45-minute workout. Hey, you're tight. Maybe just go for a walk. Maybe just go for a quick swim. Just do something. Keep that body moving, right? A body in motion stays in motion, which also, so this is something that I find interesting, Mario. When I look at successful entrepreneurs, most all of them look healthy, at least on the outside, right? They're slim, they're fit. They might not be, buff or built, but they look like they're moving their bodies. Do you think that it's possible to be a successful entrepreneur if you're not focused on fitness as well?
So there's a lot of intra-individual difference there, because some people will naturally be able to stay off of certain bad habits, and just because that's the way they're wired. So some people might not be as prone to overeating food, or their metabolism might be wired in a certain way, so they're not going to feel the negative health effects. They're not going to turn into a type 2 diabetic overnight. So there's ways to make it work temporarily if you have won the lottery, if you know how to pick your parents right. But in a sense of, if we're talking about long-term success, you're not going to be able to reach your full potential without taking care of your health and fitness. There's no reality in which that can work out for you. You're playing against statistics. So eventually it's going to happen. Now, the question is just when. Is it going to happen when you're in your 50s that you're going to start having problems, your 60s, your 70s, maybe your entire life you spend building this amazing business and everything is great. And then when it comes time for that last quarter of life, last 20 years, now you're spending time and money on hospitals, doctors, treatments, instead of actually having fun time with your grandkids, enjoying being active, traveling the world, going to 50 plus countries, 100 countries, doing some crazy nice stuff. Now you can't. because you've just traded your health for money. And you don't have to trade your health for success. There's no reason for it to do that. Again, it boils down to that, what we went down a little bit earlier. Are you thinking black and white about this thing? Are you just completely ignoring it, right? If you just don't completely ignore it, if you do sort of the Pareto on it, 80-20. So what's the 20% about the health and fitness that I can do that will still fit into my life, that I can still pursue my business goals? I'm not saying, sell your company and just go to the gym. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, what are some of the things you can embed in your existing schedule that will pay off massive dividends over a long period of time, that will actually end up putting you in a great position to succeed and a huge competitive advantage as well. If I'm competing against an entrepreneur, and this entrepreneur is on McDonald's, on Burger King, their brains don't work half the day, I'm knocking out 12 hours a day. And let's say we're equally as smart. Let's say we don't have any one of us pretty much same everything. Who's going to have an advantage here? Well, I'm going to be able to outwork you. I'll get an 8-hour work week in there, and you're going to get half that done, and I'm going to be more focused. I'm going to be better with clients. I'm going to be in a better mood. I'm going to be happier. Clients are going to stay with me longer. So from a perspective of health and fitness, I mean, you're looking at that as an asset that appreciates over time. And the older you are, the more you've been in the game, the healthier you are, the better it actually works for you. Because at let's say an age of 20 or so, there's very few things you can do to screw things up if you're in the early 20s. But when you get into your 40s and 50s, a bad diet is a difference between 3 hours of focus a day and 7-8 hours of focus a day. You can coast by in 3, but are you really being the best you can? That's the real question that I would like to ask people, is essentially, how far are you from your potential? Do you see a gap? And if you analyze all your areas of your life, maybe your relationships are 10 out of 10, 8 out of 10, all great, almost perfect. Business 8, 9 out of 10, sure, great. But health could be 1, 2 out of 10. And you're just simply ignoring it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the amazing thing about life. It's not just one lane. You have to encompass multiple lanes. And health and fitness is definitely something I think about, crap in, crap out. And the reality is that can be your competitive advantage. It can be your competitive advantage. If your opponent is out there eating McDonald's and you're eating clean, you're exercising regularly, it's going to give you an advantage, not just in the short term, but in the long term. So I have a lot of respect for what you built, Mario, and the way that you've invested up front. You invested up front in the YouTube. You've invested up front in your health and fitness, and it's paying off. So very, very impressive to watch what you've built. And listen, everyone, you definitely want to check out what Mario is doing. Mario Tomic on YouTube, Tomic.com. You can find out all the tips of the trade that Mario is sharing. Now, Mario, before I let you go, we got to get into the overrated, underrated section. This could be a little bit gnarly. Are you ready for overrated, underrated?
Let's go for it.
Let's go. Let's do it. Okay. Overrated, underrated, university.
Oh, I would say overrated.
Overrated, underrated, Nike shoes.
Overrated.
Overrated, underrated, lifting heavy weights.
I would say underrated, actually.
Why?
I think most people are still in the mindset of doing HIIT, cardio, all the other modalities, and they're just simply avoiding to challenge themselves. They think it's injurious. They think it's bad for you. They think it's not sustainable. Well, in reality, it's just that you don't know how to do it properly.
Good point. Overrated, underrated, YouTube Shorts.
Underrated. I think people are missing a huge opportunity there. I think there's a lot of channels and things that I've seen actually recently do really well with shorts and blow up their whole audience as adding shorts to the mix. So yeah, huge opportunity right now.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, you can easily repurpose it for 4 other platforms, so it's big time. Overrated, underrated, the Avengers movies.
Oh man, they're amazing. So I would say underrated because there's still people that are not believers out there. I don't know who those people are, but they need to watch the Avengers.
Fair enough. Overrated, underrated, DSLR cameras.
Overrated. Like I think people are definitely. I'm more in the mirrorless game myself as a YouTuber. I love video cameras. DSLRs are sort of the older technology. I would definitely say they're overrated at this point. Mirrorless is just extremely, extremely good at now in 2021. It's crazy good.
Fair enough. Final question here for you. If you had 10 seconds with yourself 10 years ago, what are you going to sell yourself?
Sell myself.
What are you going to tell yourself?
I'd give myself a book, and that book would be one of the Marcus Aurelius meditations. And I just said, read it early, because you read it a little bit later, but you could benefit if you just read it right now.
I like that. I like that. Well, Mario, thanks for coming on this show, and I look forward to watching future success from yourself in the future.
I appreciate that, Mark. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.